Dear students, let us start the discussion on 10th October 2016 newspaper. The first article is related to India-Pakistan trade. Now, there are demands which are coming across various sectors that India has to suspend most favored nation status to Pakistan, which it never reciprocated to India. And the next is the Prime Minister also conducted a review meeting on the same. Then the first is what is MFN status? The centrality of this is a non-discrimination clause. It means whatever the benefits is offered to one of the member shall be offered to all the other members of WTO which were given MFN status. So in this system, so it means whatever the benefits we are providing to other countries, we also need to provide the same to Pakistan. Now, what will be the impact of suspension of trade with Pakistan? The first is the trade is in favor of India. The trade is surplus towards India. The total trade is around 2.6 billion, in which 2.1 billion is from India to Pakistan. Around 441 million is from Pakistan to India. So Indian exports dominate the Pakistan. And Pakistan is not especially dependent on these exports from India. It has the alternative channels for the same. So there is a little impact it can create on Pakistan. And second is, what are the legal provisions regarding this? One is, according to GATT, the national security concerns can be a base for imposing such trade restrictions. Now, in this, the national security concerns may include the nuclear fissile related material, arms deals, and then the emergency or else emergency in international relations. So now, United States has frequently used these routes to impose the sanctions on Cuba and Nicaragua. So India also can take this route, but however, it will have some judicial implications in the dispute resolution mechanisms because India is just suspending the trade without suspending the cultural relations, without suspending the transport, etc. Finally, where the goods do not move, there the military moves in. It means if the free trade between the countries increases, the propensity for war among these countries decreases. So it means the solution to the existing crisis is to deepen the trade ties rather than moving away from trade, which will worsen the relations between them. Now coming to the new normal in Pakistan. So M.K. Narayanan article, let us see over here. So in 1990s there is a surge of violence in Kashmir, and in 2016 we have this violence surge. What is the difference between these two? Now, there is a change in situation from 2013. There is an alarming signs are visible. There are alarming signs coming to us from 2013 itself. One is the discussions over Article 370 and then beef and added to that unemployment rise in Kashmir, Kashmiri floods and the sense of alienation of the Kashmiris and unfulfilled promises. All these have created a sense of a dissociation among the Kashmiri youth. Now, what are the differences in the movement then and now? So it is also been called to an extent as intifada by the Pakistani Prime Minister. Let us see these things. The narrative has clearly changed. So one is the 1989 and 90 surrounding this. In Afghanistan, the jihadi war against the Russians have ended and Russians withdrew from the Afghanistan. So these jihadis shifted their focus to Kashmir, and many of them got settled in Pak-occupied Kashmir, and they, with the support of the terror groups in Pakistan and the Pakistani government and the local terror groups in Kashmir, they initiated the war against India. It means that there is an institutionalized mechanism for the terror in which Indian armed forces have specifically focused upon. Now, if you see that the role of Lashkar-e-Toiba and other agencies appear to be less, to an extent Hizbul Mujahideen is playing a role. But however, most of the recruitments into the organizations and the eruption of the violence is spontaneous. And the Pakistan has fueled the violence in 1990s. Now, The Pakistan role is suspected, but it is not as deep as in 1990s. It means there is a spontaneous radicalization that is happening among the Kashmiri youth, and the alienation is much deeper. It is not the Burhan Wani, he is just an inflicting point. Beyond that, there are many other reasons for this. And what are these reasons? India shall not take this new normal as and it cannot dismiss it, saying that it is purely a Pakistani hand. So India need to understand the growing situation in the Kashmir with the involvement of different experts from sociology, psychology, etc. It needs a clear understanding of the situation now. Now, because people as young as 10 to 12 years are participating in these agitations. If India do not react now, it may lose the entire generation or may inflict a disaffection among the entire generation of the Kashmiris. Now, coming to the ground beneath our feet. So, now, if you take the Prime Minister of Singapore's speech, interview to Hindu, Lee Hsien Loong, he has said India has to open up with its free trade. The globalization goes two ways, not one way. So, he is specifically about two things. One is Land Acquisition Act in India, and the second one is related to the free trade, the rules and regulations that are governing the free trade and bureaucratic red tapeism. These are the two things which he pointed out. And coming to the Land Acquisition Act, what the government of India has suggested to the Singapore business is they need to acquire their own land if they want to establish the business in India. Now, 1897 we had the Land Acquisition Act, and later we got the Land Acquisition Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act. Under this, 80% of the approval of the landowners is necessary. A social impact assessment has to be conducted. Then only land has to be transferred after duly providing for the rehabilitation of the occupants of the land. And it's a kind of an assurance for agriculture farmers and also from displacement among the tribal people and other marginalized sections. But however, it is seen by the industrialists as the greatest impediment for the growth. So, if you see 2015 and 16, these are the 2 years where the employment growth is lowest in India. One of the reason is the foreign investments has to come into India, and if this investments has to take shape, land is necessary, and this land shall be available on a relatively lower cost. But however, in India, the land cost is very high, and the procurement of the land is the other major challenge. So, in this case, what the Niti Aayog is suggesting is it has brought in a model land leasing bill which the states can follow based on the Tamil Nadu bill. But however, billions of dollars investments, they cannot come on the leased land. So they don't have the assurance over the land. All of a sudden, if they have to vacate, that is going to create a huge challenge to them. So the second one is ease of doing business, especially simplification of the rules and procedures. Now, India is jumping well onto this, but however, it is mostly related to the speedy work rather than to the simplification of the rules. Now, in this case, bringing in GST and all these are the exercise in favor of ease of doing business. And Prime Minister has the target of bringing India less than 50 ranks in ease of doing business index. That's a welcome sign. Now, coming to UN. Now, United Nations is going to get a new Secretary General. He was the past Portuguese Prime Minister and also UN High Commission on Refugees. He was the commissioner over there. His name is Antonio Guterres. Now, this Antonio Guterres, he has certain targets before him. The first one is there is a demand for UN reform and also bringing the gender equality in the functioning of the UN. So he has promised that his advisors and most of the UN important functionaries, 50% will be women. And the next is the Syrian crisis worsening. Now, with the United States questioning the Russia and its friend Assad and their violations of human rights norms in Aleppo, and Russia withdrawing from plutonium deal with US. So these are all worsening the situation between US and Russia. How the refugees have to be dealt with, this is a major challenge before him. And now world is getting polarized again, with US and Europe on one side, the China and Russia on the other side. How to create an innovative bridge between these two poles is the major challenge before him. Now coming to US investments. Now here let us understand what is bilateral investment treaty. And India and US are facing many state and investor disputes, especially Kane Energy dispute, and recently with regard to space, we have seen Devas Multimedia state and investor dispute. So according to bilateral investment treaty, what India is pressing now is this: before going for an international arbitration, the investor has to exhaust all his sources in India. That is what is to be first followed. But tardy legal process, judicial process, is something which the investors are quoting, and they are not ready to accept this. So in this case, China do not have any bilateral investment treaty, but the FDIs to China are flocking. What is the mechanism which was brought in? So there is an agreement at the corporate level between the investors and the companies, and it is related to dispute resolution mechanism. In that agreement itself, they will decide how the dispute resolution mechanism has to be. So the Singapore arbitration model is being highlighted. In this, now if you take the gift city in Ahmedabad, near Ahmedabad, here, so for all the investments that are flowing, so a center is been established over there, that is Singapore Investor Dispute Redressal Center. So it means that more than coming under a broader framework created by the nation, these are being at the corporate levels, they are making a new dispute resolution mechanism so it can solve the issue of investment flows to India. Now coming to Janani Suraksha Yojana. Now, what is the objective of this program? It is to increase the institutional deliveries of the mothers. Now, it is launched along with the National Rural Health Mission in 2005. And there are India's Health Development Surveys, that is Human Development Surveys, in 2004-2005, that is before the launch of Janani Suraksha Yojana, and in 2011-12, after 5 to 6 years implementation of the program. So based on this, University of Maryland has conducted a study, and there are certain important findings. It has increased the access to maternal care and utilization of the services. And the socio-economic differences in the utilization of the services also has come down. It has remarkably obtained something, that is, the first-time pregnant mothers, they are using the institutional deliveries more frequently compared to the others. So these are welcoming findings to India that showed the effectiveness of the Janani Suraksha Yojana, because India is the second largest, India has the second largest maternal deaths during pregnancy. Coming to the foreign doctors, no license are not licensed to heal. Now there is a qualifying test which is conducted for the foreign medical graduates, and most of them are flunking this particular examination, and also they are getting this made in China, made in Russia tag, which is not allowing them to mix properly with the Indian community over here. So these are the articles for today. Thank you very much. All the best.